there's still plenty of options for you to buy beer, wine, cider, coolers, and even spirits, including products made right here in Ontario. We've created this handy new map that shows what stores are open and what they sell.
That's cool. So this was made so you can find, thanks to this, taxpayer funded, by the way. This is all your tax dollars. Hard at work, by the way, Toronto. Good job. This is what the money is going towards, to be able to find where you can buy the booze. This one's also ridiculous because there's a crisis right now in the same area where no one can find a family doctor. But this apparently was a priority. We are going to have to talk about how booze is now more readily available in Toronto than healthcare. You can't find a doctor in Toronto, but there's now maps for you to be able to find where to buy liquor. Hey, I've got nothing against alcohol. I've had many a great adventure on the substance. I'm not here to poo-poo people's drug use either. I too have enjoyed many substances and enjoyed the states that they put me in. It's more that, like, it's good if the money from the taxation of those things goes into healthcare. That's my qualms. Not if y'all want to get wrecked. In fact, I encourage a good wrecking now and then. If you didn't know, Canada has a woke military. It is powered by wokeness. It has, you know, LGBTQs, plural, and they, them, you know, stuff is going on in the military. It's hard to understand, but apparently we're not going to have a woke military anymore. It's now going to be a warrior military, is what we're switching to. Listen to Pierre Poilievre and his Poilievre and his top priorities: cutting taxes, building homes, reducing the federal budget, and fighting crime. He's Batman. And you won't hear a single specific mention of Canada's military. The Conservative leader has pledged to change the culture of the Canadian Armed Forces from what he calls a woke culture to a warrior culture. He has suggested he's prepared to increase the military's resources, but what exactly would the new defense policy under a Poilievre government look like? The current federal government is facing growing pressure to spend billions of dollars more to meet NATO's military spending target for member nations. NATO is meeting right now. You might know that because a lot of people are celebrating how Joe Biden gave a speech where he mostly made sense. It's true. I won't deny it. He did mostly make sense at that speech, and that's good. So, you know, one for what? 5 of his last appearances. There were obviously moments where I was like, oh god, it's happening again, but then he did steer the ship, and so that happened, and that is definitely I think what concerns American voters the most, right, is NATO. That's probably the biggest voting topic when you look at the top 10 things that voters care about. It's going to be NATO number 1, probably something along that line. Canada got shit on. Absolutely shit on Justin Trudeau from everyone, not just from Biden. You know, Biden definitely fucking shit all over him, but there was a lot of other world leaders that were like, Canada, you suck. And then Canada was like, but why? And then they're like, well, you really suck because you're not putting in the monies, and you got to put in more monies. Your GDP to military ratio, not good. You suck. And then Canada was like, oh, sure, I hear you. But then behind back doors, they're like, we don't need to do that because we got America. We're basically just going to have to subtly criticize America a little bit, but usually do what it wants. And then that means that we get to be protected by y'all. So that's cool. Thanks for being our muscle. You are the muscle, and we will have to be I guess, leeches in this strange metaphor. The current federal government is facing growing pressure to spend billions of dollars more to meet NATO's military spending for member nations, 2% of the GDP. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is confronting that pressure as he meets with leaders of other NATO countries in Washington this week. The Conservative leader faces a different kind of pressure. He has to square his vows to bring home control of the country into our defense and work towards NATO's spending target, with his core pledge to cut government spending with an eye to balancing the budget. That's pretty tricky math to accomplish in a short time frame, said Dave Perry, President and CEO of Canadian Global Affairs Institute. A $50 billion gap. The Conservative government would have to increase the defense budget somewhere between $10 and $15 billion 5 years from now, above and beyond the commitments already made by the Liberals in order to meet the NATO target. In the meantime, the Conservatives would also look to slash deficit spending, pegged at nearly $40 billion for the most recent Liberal budget. Poilievre has also called for a cultural shift within the armed forces. We're going to end the woke culture, and we're going to bring back a warrior culture. Now, I sure, you know, most people who watch me understand that white people have ruined the word woke, unfortunately, and that really sucks. You know, of all the things for white folk to destroy, this one's really bad, because essentially, if it's a term that is supposed to make you aware. Hey, are you aware of the suffering of other people, the plight of other people, whether they be minorities, whether they be, if it's people of color, LGBTQ plus people, et cetera, making yourself aware to, perhaps these challenges that other groups or people face is a many splendid thing indeed. Sounds lovely. Sounds good. Doesn't sound like an evil thing. Doesn't sound insidious. Sounds like growth. Like, honestly, it's one of those things where, hey, yeah, we all used to be edgy in our past. We used to be edgy, aka racist. But like, we've grown a lot, as have even YouTubers. Yeah, I know, one of the last groups anyone thought would have any kind of personal growth. YouTubers have grown, they've done a bit, and so some of them have come forward and been like, that was kind of shitty. Probably shouldn't have been doing that. Probably shouldn't have been using the N-word, even as memes, because like it definitely contributes towards the society of degrading and dehumanizing black people. So it's probably a bad thing to use the N-word at all, if you are not black. So yeah, I learned something, come a long way, and now I'm at a point where I can totally say, yes, not going to do that anymore. But we do need to stop the wokies and the woke culture and the DEI and all that stuff, because ultimately what it's really doing is inverse racism. You see, what it's doing now is it's making people hired for jobs because of the color of their skin, not because of the content of their character, which is what he was all about, right? That guy, the famous one, the one that totally just lived a really long life and then basically got to retire with the civil rights movement being completely finished. So so we got to stop the woke culture and bring back a warrior culture. Now, what is warrior culture? I don't know if you've seen those commercials out of Russia. They look like they're for gay orgies, but they're not. They're for the military. Just a lot of really shredded dudes, just muscles bulging out of their fucking bodies and all this beautiful sweat glistening down their muscles as they flex and like work out in slow motion. And then there's like all of a sudden this like Euro techno playing in the background, like unst, 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 unst. And it's like, oh yeah. And then you're just watching, like, I don't know what is going on here, but someone is definitely trying to turn someone else on. And then all of a sudden it's like, military. And you're like, oh, that was a recruitment ad. Yeah, I mean, sign me up. But recruit for what, you say? And then, yeah, so that's the warrior culture. I think that's what we got to return to. This is a thing, not just an American thing. Honestly, like, I'm sorry, but I gotta poke holes or just laugh at this, because otherwise, what are we doing here? This is gonna be the new Prime Minister of Canada. What does this sentence mean? We're going to end the woke culture and bring back the warrior culture. How? You know what? And I mean, this is fucked, because like the military, I'm sorry to say, is not woke. There are so many problems in the Canadian military, including mass sexual assaults, including racism, like including white supremacists having infiltrated vast aspects of, military and being like, oh, there seems to be a lot of military personnel who also go on forums for like the far right and shit like that. Yeah, no, not woke, not at all. Again, it's usually doing the bidding of empire and corporations who need Canada to be peacekeepers in regions where mining companies need to extract resources. It's kind of like what they do. So they're not woke. No, there is no woke military. I guess if you think that even the very concept of having a massive social spending program is woke, because then, yeah, I guess the military does do that. I mean, that's a really good example of either the US or America having a very, very robust spending program that houses people, that educates people, that gives them, university and college education as well, jobs training in a variety of fields, food programs, then veteran programs, as well as healthcare programs. Very comprehensive, robust, basically everything society is supposed to be doing, but only if you're part of the kill machine. Like, if you want all the things, you got to be part of kill machine. And then if you join Kill Machine, well, then it's like, yeah, you can be taken care of because you're part of Kill Machine. You want to go kill things and help us. So yes, you're good up until a point. Then we might forget about you. If you happen to be a homeless veteran, then yeah, I mean, we're working on it. But then we do have to spend lots more on NATO. Same problems that are in the US military. Essentially, yeah, unfortunately. Same problems that are in a lot of militaries. McGill's Gaza Solidarity encampment is currently being dismantled. A support rally is being held outside the encampment, denouncing the dismantlement. In this address, I want to talk about the current developments at the encampment and serious allegations made by McGill. In a statement made via email, McGill President Deep Saini said that the university began the dismantlement of the encampment through the engagement of a qualified security firm collaborating with the city of Montreal. This encampment was the last surviving encampment for Palestine in Montreal. 2 encampments, one targeting this organization, the provincial government ties to Israel, and others supporting homeless encampments in solidarity with Palestine, were dismantled last Friday. This morning, Saini made the allegations of the presence of selling of drugs at the encampment. In a statement via email, he said 2 overdoses occurred at the encampment since July 6th, and there were syringes that were visible and illegal narcotics that had been sold there. In the same email, Saini states that Montreal fire safety officials, police, and McGill had long denied access to the camp, and that there are growing risks and the impossibility of knowing what was happening inside. Without having access, they wouldn't be able to do that. Since the encampment was set up in April, McGill has launched a smear campaign against the encampment. McGill has made 2 very serious claims against the encampment, that it is encouraging violence and anti-Semitism. McGill sought a provisional injunction against the encampment in May. A provisional injunction acts as an urgent injunction to seek the encampment be dismantled. In the injunction, McGill said the violent actions had occurred at the encampment since it was set up. One of the reasons provisional injunction was rejected by the Quebec Superior Court is due to McGill not being able to provide any evidence of the violent action since the encampment was set up. Last Friday, a window was broken at McGill during a rally denouncing the dismantling of 2 former encampments in Montreal. While property was damaged, activists at the encampment say a 60-year-old woman had her ankle fractured while those trying to support her were pepper sprayed by the police. Saini again pointed to a photo of the encampment used to promote their summer youth program as inciting violence. Many politicians, including Mark Miller, spoke out against this, with SPVM saying they are launching an investigation into the encampment as a result of this. Saini has again made the allegation of anti-Semitism, stating that people linked to the camp have engaged in anti-Semitic intimidation. I've spoken to many Jewish members involved in the camp since April. In this excerpt I reported and published in May, I spoke with 2 Jewish students at the encampment and one that visited to protest the encampment.
And like the genocide in Gaza. An important part of establishing the camp was agreeing on community guidelines together, which include things like no tolerance for discrimination, including anti-Semitism.
McGill did not provide a comment, but referred us to a statement about the encampment on their website. In the statement, McGill said that they're engaging in dialogue with students and have requested police assistance at the encampment. Despite Jewish individuals and groups being a part of the encampment, some outside of the encampment still believe that this movement supports the eradication of Jewish people.
I think what they're doing here is not supporting the Palestinians, it's spreading Jew hatred, and they should stop with it. I think it's pathetic. On one end, you're calling for ceasefire now. On the other end, you're calling for to globalize the Intifada. I think it's pathetic, and I think these people are making things worse for the Palestinians in Gaza.
We've all been so mind poisoned, just like years and years and years of like tons and tons of mainstream television doing that, like, you know, a really terrible thing where they conflate any criticism of Israel with criticism of the entirety of the Jewish people, and people like still believe it. It sucks, but you know, you can have a university like McGill straight up lying that there's been anti-Semitism that's been spewing forth from this encampment, and then talking about how there's also drug use, it's rampant, and there's syringes and stuff like that. Anything that you can basically use as an excuse for the police to tear it down. Despite months of negotiation, McGill and the encampment has not reached an agreement. McGill's most recent offer was made 1 month ago, offering to look into divesting, increase investment disclosures, and offer scholarships to Palestinians and displaced scholars. The students rejected that offer. That was not enough, and McGill needs to commit to divesting from companies arming Israel instead of saying they will look into divesting. Yeah, because that's awesome. Look, we offered to look into it because so we looked into it, and we're going to keep doing it. Money. That makes money. The offer also ignored students' demands for McGill to uphold an academic boycott. I asked McGill for clarification multiple times on why they didn't address this request in the encampment in their offer. Each time I was ignored. I have still not received a response after 1 month. A bulldozer is on site in the encampment to assist with the dismantlement of the encampment. Researcher and activist Ted Rutland drew correlations to McGill using a bulldozer at this encampment to the violence of Israeli military having used it against activists in the past. They say the campus has been closed today to protect the safety of the community. McGill said they're not taking interviews at this time, and they respond to requests to comment. So like a lot of the other encampments, also it's summertime, so like classes aren't in full swing. It's summertime classes, which are much more muted to people who take summer school for what's available at the time. So a lot of the encampments have said they're going to return once the regular academic season does as well. So that's supposed to take place, but for now a lot of them are getting taken down. And if all of this makes you sad, and don't worry, this is the end of my coverage of Canada, then you can take solace in cheap beer. No, it's not even cheap. More beer, less money for I mean, there's no other way to put this. It sucks because, you know what, Toronto, there is a handful of lefty Toronto content creators, and there's a handful of lefty big accounts that are based out of that region. Y'all should be reporting on this and talking about it. It has a lot of issues that are you know, capable of doing some numbers. First off, like this it's Doug Ford, so you know, you can right away, it's the brother crack smoking mayor, ex-crack smoking mayor of Toronto, conservative, part of Ford Nation, and they've done a really good job at basically gutting as many social safety nets as they can after privatizing as many industries as they can, and they finally just got to booze. And most of the research that I've done on this has shown that it's going to take about $2.5 billion away from money that was going into healthcare and schooling programs for the citizens of the area. But in exchange, you'll be able to buy beer everywhere. You'll be able to buy it in 7-Elevens just like you can in the US, so it's no longer even a novelty to go to America. You know what, Americans? This is going to destroy your tourism industry. That's one of the biggest reasons Canadians travel to the US. It's not just for Trader Joe's. Don't get me wrong, okay? White Canadians especially, they are like moths to the light or whatever, flies to the honey that is Trader Joe's. It's just from a distance, you can hear the calling, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't go there. I'll spend too much money on just wild random shit. But it's like, oh really? Did you know that they have like a new green tea fused with like mango mochi that you just have to try? It's like, oh, that does sound good. Ooh, I've always wanted green tea with a little spiral of mochi and blah. Like, yes, and then they'll buy it all because it's tasty. Oh yeah, this.
It's summertime in Ontario. That means more time outside with family and friends at a neighborhood barbecue or a camping trip. Even though LCBO workers are on strike.
Yes, they are, because of the shit that you're pulling right now. Also, you can join the Chuck Schumers of the world and you learn how to grill. This is disgraceful, honestly. This should disgust Canadians, all right? I'm going to tap into the nationalism here. This is treasonous. Absolutely treasonous to the country, all right? I'm sorry, what is this, an ad for the Taliban? Is that what I'm watching here? Fucking what is this, rancid-ass meat? Why do all conservatives not know how to grill? It deeply disturbs me, and someone has to figure this out.
Right. There's still plenty of options for you to buy beer, wine, cider, coolers, and even spirits, including products made right here in Ontario. We've created this handy new map that shows what stores are open and what they sell. Say you want to...
That's cool. So this was made so you can find, thanks to this, taxpayer funded, by the way. This is all your tax dollars. Hard at work, by the way, Toronto. Good job. This is what the money is going towards, to be able to find where you can buy the booze. Now that sounds neat, right? I know a lot of people are probably talking about, well, Lance, did you hear about the Whataburger thing in the US? And I was like, I did. That's fundamentally, profoundly sad. That it's like, in order to find out where exactly there are like blackouts for power in Houston, or is it Houston? Maybe it's not Houston, but they were basically using the app for Whataburger because that would show you which ones were closed, and so they could use that to correlate where power was out, and that it was actually very effective at that because there's just so many locations all across it. But yeah, so this one is also ridiculous because, oh, it was Houston. Okay, nice. I remembered something. This one's also ridiculous because there's a crisis right now in the same area where no one can find a family doctor. And lots of people are pointing that out. It's like, yeah, we have a public healthcare system, but it's impossible to find a doctor. You can go to walk-in clinics, right? You can just go to a walk-in clinic where you'll be met with sometimes a stranger, unless you've seen them before, who's going to have to, go through your files and everything, and they can refer you to someone to get surgery. I'm not saying like it doesn't exist. It does, but there is a crisis in that people do not have family doctors and they don't have access to it. But this apparently was a priority. It's like, well, yes, but your tax dollars are hard at work tracking liquor so you can get it anywhere. Look at this. You can filter it by beer, wine, cider, spirits, and you can see them all over the place. Look at that.
Say you want to buy some local Ontario craft beer. Just zoom in on where you are, click the filter for beer, and look at all the fantastic options that pop up. And look at all those yellow dots which show Ontario-made products. Click on one and you'll see the store's name and address as well as what they sell. And keep in mind, LCBO convenience outlets are still open with plenty of local products that you can find by clicking the right filter here. Folks, it's just that simple. I hope you'll all give it a try and take the opportunity to support on.
I noticed you haven't bitten into your rancid burger yet. It's just sitting there like a prop. Look at that. Untouched. Also, what, is it literally just meat and bread? Is that it? Would ketchup be too bougie? You just put like one strip? Like, oh no, I don't fuck with that. I'm the working man. The common folk. Meat and bread. Yeah. None of that gay shit. I'm not gonna put any woke ass tomatoes and lettuce on there.
And take the opportunity to support Ontario producers and their fantastic Ontario made products this summer. Let's make it an Ontario made summer And remember, in
Oh, White Boy Summer's gotten replaced.
just a few months, convenience stores and grocery stores across the province
I
will
feel
be
like
able
this
to
is White
sell
Boy Summer
a whole
erasure
range
that's
of
going on
drinks.
here.
So check back on this map for more options as they appear. Enjoy, and remember to drink responsibly.
And it works. People see this shit and they're like, yeah, what? Apparently there's a new thing that lets me see where all the beer is. So yeah, that's better than a family doctor. And the $2.5 billion that was coming in from the sales of that. So all good parts.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.